Welcome to our fourth and final preview podcast for VCT London. I bet you weren't expecting four. I mean, you probably were expecting four actually to be fair to be the first one, because pretty obvious how the format was going to go at that point. But yep,
Basically, he just assumed that you guys didn't have basic math and couldn't count to four.
I mean, no comment, no comment. I'm talking to my lawyer on this. I'm pleading like the 6th or the 7th or one of those numbers. I'm not sure which one you're supposed to plead. I'm not American. In any case, let's get right into it. China teams, and we'll talk a little bit about just our general expectations for the tournament, all that sort of stuff afterwards as well in this episode.
It is worth noting also that it's hard to keep up with four regions. This is probably the region that falls through the cracks with us a little bit more. So we will, and of course, because we don't have experience with the region itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have as much to say.
But we are starting with DRG, so pre-seed. And the funny thing about DRG is that there is the player that everyone talks about on this team, like the star player, is actually somebody we kind of do know a little bit about because it is Vukashu, who was in Europe tier 2 for a long time before he went to China, and quite an eye-catching player there as well, I'd say, to be fair. Quite a
hard shooter. He was known as like one of the hardest shooters in the EMEA, basically.
Yeah, a very unique player. But yeah, let's get into it. So, first of all, DRG, route to the tournament. Groups, they were okay, not amazing. 0-2 against Jilai, 2-0 Nova, 2-1 Wolves, 1-2 against ETG, 2-1 against Trace, lost the seeding match 0-2 to Tyloo. About where you'd expect, to be fair. They beat the teams worse than them. They lost to Tyloo, but Tyloo were, we consider likely a contender for the third slot and going into London, to be fair, so not really a bad loss by any means. Going to playoffs against, I would say, solid run in playoffs.
Race, JDG, and then all games after losing the initial match to EDG.
Yeah, like lose to EDG, come out of like the brawl of the lower team, beat Trace, beat JDG quite easily. 2-1 over AG, gets them to the event, 1-3 versus Shiloh. Now, best map for this team, starting out, I would say it is definitely their Haven. So, let's get this up here. Yeah, they run Waylay.
Which is interesting. China seems to be, well, especially DRG, but China still seems to be really big on the Waylay, actually.
Yeah,
everyone else is kind of falling off.
I mean, to be fair, it was a case, I think it's a bit of a case of they started their season earlier than everybody else. I don't know the exact patch schedule, but to be fair, they had more time on the Waylay while the Waylay was good and like unnerfed. I think this is kind of something that's bled over into where we just don't see a reason to get off the Waylay. So some of these teams do still play it as a result of that, I think. We are seeing also, to be fair, there has been a bit of a swing back to using the Waylay on certain teams. I think NRG used it last night on the EWC qualifiers, one of the maps, for example. It's a good agent still, to be fair. I think the idea there was completely unplayable after the nerfs was a little bit exaggerated, but yeah. But with DRG in general, this Waylay Neon is their bread and butter. So Life plays Neon. People will remember Life from various teams. I believe he was an FPX last year. Yeah, he was an FPX for. Yeah, he was on the original version of EDG. Then he was on Attacking Cell, which I think made one LAN, and he was on FPX. And then he joined FPX coming into Stage 1 this year. After quite a poor kickoff, so I'm in place with Bentley over there. He plays in Neon. Spirit Z1 is on Waylay. This is a new thing from him. He was a Euro 1 interested during Euro Mess, which generally played the strongest thing, quite a strong duelist player, but not like a standout. Vukashu plays Cypher majority of the time. This has traditionally been his playstyle, very much I said in first sense, but I guess he's a kill trip player. That's kind of like how he's always been. He's been very good at that style of play, very impactful. I will mention it. There has been a lot of discourse from like the people who do watch China more regularly, these sort of China fans, talking about how people are overlooking Vukashu in terms of he should be a top 15 player at the event, blah blah blah. I will say he's clearly the best player on this team. He's also a massive. He's the guy who will stand up after every round and give it the big uns. That is very much watch.
My favorite kind of player, by the way.
Yeah, he's a very that sort of player, and obviously there was a bit of a case of he unfortunately didn't get to the event in Champions last year because he actually qualified because of visa issues. I will say I think it's maybe stretching it a little bit, like how much people like talk him up. He's very good. I would say probably a top 20 player at this event. I think people are like saying, "Oh, he should be top 10," and it's like, well, you look at how he's very good. He's not the only reason this team wins, like some people say. He's not like his impact on the game is also hard from his role. He's not like carrying games solo, all this sort of stuff. I think I will say I think his talent is exaggerated a little bit. He's one of those players who's talked about. Everyone says he's underrated to the point where he's starting to get a little bit overrated. He's kind of that sort of thing. Just getting out of the way now. I still think he's very good. I think he's very important to the RG. I don't. This isn't just a Fukashi show. And I don't think it makes sense to.
It does seem like he also gets a lot. He's a bit of a studio gangster in the sense that he does get a lot of space to play however he wants in this team.
Yeah. So talking about this Haven, because this is kind of an interesting case study as well on this. So the Haven, like we say, good 4-2 record during the split so far. I think they lost first week on it, and it was like was first week, yeah. 13-7 Nova, 10-13 Tyloo, 13-9 JDG, 13-6 All Gamers, 13-10 XLG. They've been good. They've been solid in it throughout the split, basically. Yeah. And you look at how they play. So this is their basic concept that they run pretty much every single time on attack. It's a 3-2-0/3-1-1. Strength up here. Fukashi and flexing on the Omen, playing the weak side, like exploring around that sort of, not exploring too deep to be fair, kind of just playing around this area. They're kind of like no man's land, I guess, of this map. There is a difficulty with playing weak side in general on Haven. You're walking into a lot of space up here where the enemy doesn't really care if you're there a lot of the time. They're kind of okay with you walking around mid because the central util that you can put up, like let's say a killjoy, for example, just using the alarm bots. Obviously one alarm bot, but you get the idea. You got like a natural barrier here, where you can't walk into this. If you walk into it, you'll get found out immediately, and the enemy team can then react and adjust on the basis of it. Walk around there, walk around all around here. We don't really care if you do that, right? There's a lot of there is an extent of weak side on that, right? So their impact here is like not amazing round for round. Their 3-man does pretty well on C in terms of how they work C. It's very slow. They gradually walk up. They got some like nice trap plays as well for people coming and trying to punish anything in terms of C push. They're really good at fast scaling. The way they walk up here. They exploit the fact that Wayne and the Young can obviously just go up into a gear immediately. You get a pick here. Jump, dash, right? The discipline of how they walk up. And the reality is, in the China region, most teams just basically the round happens is end up either a team tries to do like this mid walk basically up to here, or they do like some weird push on here, and these guys do catch it, and they play as a duo, they play back to back, and they just kill 3 people. Or eventually the enemy team will like get antsy and they'll peek into here or they'll look into here and they'll just get picked off here, and then they can speed up into it, right? It's pretty simple, but it works really well for them in their region. I don't think right around here I wants to highlight as well in terms of like a less orthodox round, which works really well for them, which kind of shows you that, and also shows you why people think Rukashi is super good. So this was a start round along the same principles though, with regards to how Rukashi is like playing mid and sort of stuff. So this is already you can't see the time, but it's 57 seconds into the round already, so this is already like mid round. They're kind of trap baiting here, they're taking space up here. Rukashi gets 1. Immediately tempo up. Use the ult. Rukashi gets 2 off a very good kill. Rukashi gets 3. You can argue the first kill is the second kill was nice. The other kills here, they're not horrible by any means. It's nice, right? And like you see, he does this every single round. This is
Welcome to the podcast where you can get an ace by banging out 5 people and we'll still find a way to criticize.
Yeah,
okay? Well,
yeah.
Remember this, guys. We're not Platch out of these other podcasts, okay?
Yeah. But you can kind of see like good ace. The second kill is really impressive. The other kills all solid. Not like, oh holy shit, how is he doing that? Like the enemy team is giving him a lot of opportunities, a lot of options there. Yeah, like they're inting into him. I think a little bit. And this was all games as well. Since the previous champions of China, the team that beat Gentlemates as well. So I don't know what it says about EMEA, but you know it's fine. We keep moving. We keep moving. In any case, This team has a couple of defaults that work really well. This duo here is very strong in terms of how they're able to play, how they're able to basically catch baits on it. They have a good thing going on Haven. The question is going to be, how does it scale up to international play? It's going to be the case of all of these teams, right? And I mean, let's talk a little bit about defense as well. Defense. The big thing you notice about the defense is this team always seems to have like two people on site somewhere, right? Like they'll have, just using examples, like they'll stack like two people up here, like both towards logs. They'll like stack people on double graffiti, like one under, that sort of stuff. This team does not do retakes. They just don't. Like, they're always trying to meet your read. I think this is a reason they're good on Haven and they're good on Lotus. I think almost this meeting the read kind of paradoxically works better on the free maps site maps. It does on the two site maps. I don't know why that would be, particularly because it should be. It sounds like on paper that should be the opposite. I guess just because you can always collapse on B on both sites. To be fair, yeah. But when they've got the read, like they're aggressive. They're good at setting their feet. They're good at taking the fight. They're good at making a read. They've also got some nice little aggro defense setups like this. They kind of it's what we talked about on the previous episode with Foot, right? Where like they've got like a lot of like little nice 2-man, 3-man setups, like 3-man plays. This was like a good example I had here, for example. I see that just isolating Happy Way, just taking that down should never be in trouble here. Yeah, stuff like that, and then they go on to Seaside, and I think they win this round in the end with Rikashi. If Rikashi does that, because he's Rikashi.
Just after we called him overrated, we're showing clips of him just banging people out over and over again.
Yeah. That's par for the course, honestly. But yeah, they've got a lot of good stuff on this map. To be fair, there's definitely a degree to which they are punishing teams doing stuff you wouldn't probably see in other regions. To be fair, that is the case, and it's silly to present otherwise. But there's good stuff here, and I think we'll move swiftly on into their worst map as well, because they have a very clear worst map. It's Split. They've lost 4 times on Split. No, 0 wins. One decently close map on it against XLG. To be fair, they almost took the series to 5. I think it's interesting as an exploration more so of like how and why this team is struggling on some other maps, right? Now,
I will say the comp already does seem to just like on Split, where a map where everyone kind of does play close angles and you don't have a good consistent flash to clear them off these angles, and you don't even have the raise. You have the neon stun, which can be good, but then you don't have, for example, once you're neon stunning, you don't have something to flash people off who can trade potentially the guy who gets neon stunned. That's kind of the issue I see already.
Yeah.
I guess you have the fade.
Yeah, you have the fade, I guess, but then that's always like a little bit awkward. You miss like a lot of dogs, all that sort of stuff, right?
The timing to punish with fade is also hard on Split, to be fair.
Yeah. But we're seeing the same core, right? Wayland Dion. Question mark whether they keep this for London, to be fair, because like I say, neither of these guys have historically been one tricks. Or Spirit kind of, but he's not been a Waylay one trick. He just happened to pick it up during the Split. Life has had a good jet and race historically, to be fair, because he's been playing like international since 2020, which also helps in that regard. I think Waylay Jet would be a natural direction from the go if I'm them, to be honest. That's what I would do probably here, but we'll see. Now you look at the Joyline game. They got out to a good early lead here. Vuk got a lot of early kills. They got a little bit unlucky with post plants on a couple of things. He went down to like 4 and 3. You notice when I'm watching the defense, a lot of variance in the defensive setups, like how they use util. They'll group util up onto one site, which they basically device in the Astra being essentially a like 1.5 Sentinel comp. Group util, split util. A lot of them playing like 1-and-out angles on B Heaven and stuff like that. Like they're playing like angles like up here. They like to do like a lot of those. I could do a lot of those. There's a lot of rounds in the Drylo game where they just basically get banged out. They're playing these angles, they're thinking, okay, it's safe, blah, 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 and then everything just speeds up on them and gets them. The awareness as a team in terms of how the round is going seems poor. Like once they take one mistake, they're going to lose 3 more people quite quickly. you do get the feeling that unless Fukashi or Spirit get early kills, this team can struggle in terms of knowing what to do. They don't seem very good at getting back into rounds, which is hugely, hugely important when you come to the international stage in particular. And they position appropriately for what they're good at, right? There's a lot of like close angles. There's a lot of like these weird off angles, like I said, where it's like you should be able to, like, you're probably not going to get the kill, but if you do it, you get one kill, you get out, you got a 5v4 to work from. They have to come quite deep. Didn't give out against Gyro particularly. The attack was a little bit better. They went down to 10-6 after the pistol loss. They marched it back for a little bit. It felt similar to Haven. They have Vukashu, they have Flexin. I think it was generally set up like the other way around, something like this. Like good at 1v1, good at maintaining a strong spread on the map. Exploited over aggression, life and spirits. Very good at finding the space to basically make this all work. Vukashu was very scary rifler. Calling was reasonable. They were getting late into most rounds. All good. Question about this team, I think, is just what this team is going to be. I think in a lot of cases, the comps are really good for how they are utilizing 100% of their power in terms of these comps in this style, right? On defense, pretty fine. Like a lot of like offhangs, a lot of defensive pushes as well. We didn't really mention too much of that. Lukaku gets some miracle rounds as well, to be fair. Hold map, and then on attack, you just hold map space late into the rounds. Hold. Basically, wait the round out, wait for them to make mistakes. If they don't make mistakes, okay. We've got Waylay, we've got Neon, we've got a very explosive 3 or 4 man get out, basically. Even if we don't execute it perfectly, it's hard to sort of deal with. And that's all good. The question is, how does that scale up against international players, international teams? Because it feels like being good in China feels a lot of recognizing and exploiting the openings that other teams give you in terms of we have this association with this very aggressive playstyle in China, which I think is fair. I think this is why JLI is at the top of the region consistently, because they're very good at understanding and reading and basically exploiting that. Same thing with the RG. I think they're very good at understanding and reading and exploiting that, and that's why Vukashu gets these like obviously insane rifler, but he gets these insane multi kills as well because he can just sort of read and kill 4 people off of that, and doesn't happen as consistently in the international stage. It does happen sometimes, obviously, but like that boosts him up a lot. So I think the interesting question is, I guess, in terms of key player, it is Vukashu.
Yeah, I think this one we don't need to be contrarian with this one. This one is Vukashu.
It is Vukashu. I mean, he's an insane rifler. Like I said, I think his ability to open up space for them and then his importance on attack overstays it a little bit, but then obviously you can sort of say, well, okay, if they just run 4 people into him because he kills 4 people, that is certainly beating expectations no matter who you are, right? He will do stuff like that, even if he can't really take space for himself because of how the game just is now. Moving right into expectations, I guess the question is, who do we think at this event, knowing that we're doing what we just talked about with the IG, who could they beat, and what's the route to playoffs look like as a result? So they got
so in my head it's a 0-2, but to be honest, it's like it basically needs to be that one of these teams like Vitality, like Footballist, like I mean, my guess is it would be EMEA because those are, I guess, the 2 weaker regions, right? But they have to catch someone off guard, and so basically the team just needs to disrespect them completely, in my opinion, for them to get a win. And then for them to get 2, I think 2 teams need to disrespect them completely. And that basically just means that we have to have 2 teams that just don't do any study on them and don't realize what they're actually going to play against and go in with the expectation that they're just going to win. And then they have a really good day with like 2 or 3 players, and that's how they, I think, get a win. To be honest, as harsh as that sounds.
I'm actually a little bit more optimistic about this team. So first, Vitality first match. I do not think this team beats Vitality. I don't think they're the right type of team to win it. We kind of said Vitality is a team that is a veteran team. They will punish mistakes. They will punish stuff. They won't fall for stupid stuff. We kind of saw that in the series against Foot, right?
But the lack of structure could also, you know, when you lack a strong identity.
But on the other hand, the problem with Vitality is the defense, and the defense gets unpicked by like teams just pushing everywhere, right? Because it's just this weak 2-1-2 when they're at their worst. This team doesn't really exploit that, I don't think. Maybe I'm underestimating the executes. I don't think they've got the juice for Vitality. However, We will have full sense of foot in the 0-1 bracket, right? I think they can beat foot. I have a
I
feeling
could see it.
they match up well. Full sense will be tougher because these Chinese and APAC teams get to scream each other a lot, so there will be a familiarity here, and you want
So they
something.
will be, they will be aware of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they can beat foot. In a matchup, right? And we will have one of those teams in 0-1 brackets, so that's a route for them to get a win. Global or Lev, one of them also goes lowers. I don't think the IG does well against either of those teams, to be fair. So I think they would have to dodge those.
Especially a team like Lev, I feel like is a bit too well coached to make, unless basically the kids just choke.
Yeah,
You know,
it's unlikely, right? So and obviously you have Jala Gaming. I think they can beat Jala. It was not a great series for them in lower bracket finals, but I think it was. To be fair, it was close on the fourth map. They should have been able to take it to fives. It's got a bit unlucky on that regard, right? But I think they could beat Jala. Then the question is, with the other teams, Energy and Vitality will go 1-0, almost certainly. One of them will have to probably might fall back down. Is there a world in which they can beat NRG? I actually think there's a chance that this team could cause NRG problems. I'm not just hating. It does. It is like
yeah, I feel like that's a bit hating.
no. There is a world with just with how they play with regards to particularly the angle on punishing aggression. If
It matters
NRG,
on Harbour, maybe.
yeah, okay, bro. You gotta take this seriously. You gotta take it seriously, bro. No,
I mean, mate, we have also got into the habit on this podcast where somehow everyone's making out of playoffs. So, I mean, we need to have some bottom feeder
yeah,
teams, and I
but
think this
look,
unfortunately is just one of those.
this is it's unlikely. I think. I do. I think it's very hard for them to make it out of playoffs. I do think there's a decent
If
chance
they
they
make
win a game.
playoffs, that's their.
Yeah,
If they make
that's
playoffs,
credible.
then
Yeah,
that is like for them winning the fucking whole thing, in my opinion. Like if
yeah,
they make playoffs, that's that level of
yeah.
achievement, you know.
But I do think they have a pretty legit chance at. They maybe beat Foot. I think it would be a serious stretch for them to win a second game in playoffs. At the end of the
I
day,
think I could see them being a team that fucks it up for someone else, basically. Like, you know, like someone is just in a weird situation where they're 1-2 and like, you know,
yeah,
DRG knock them out type thing, you know, or 0-1.
yeah. Like which would be, I guess, most likely Foot or Lev could happen. I don't think they win the third game. NRG, I think there's a chance with NRG, but I don't think it's likely. And this is assuming NRG even goes down to the 1-1 bracket, obviously, which is good, just 2-0. Yeah, it's there is a route, but it's very much stretched. I don't think they're the weakest team in this event for me, but they are certainly not expecting to get out, go far. Feels like they're the. It's weird because it feels like they're the anti-upset team almost. They're the worst team at the tournament. Well, they're one of the worst, like 2 or 3 teams at the tournament. Feels like they're more set up to punish the upset teams than to punish the big teams in general. Because of essentially their style, because teams are they're going to punish teams that are super aggressive, potentially, with regards to how Ricochet plays and with regards to how Flexing plays off of him. In fairness, that gives them a better shot of getting out of groups than they would have had Santiago, because I think there are more teams that sort of fit that definition potentially in this group stage. They're just not great at the end of the day, though. So the expectations, maybe they get a 0-1, winning the 0-1 brackets, and maybe they get super lucky and it's some stuff like, I don't know. Like there's a road, but it's hard, and they should be, if they get out of groups, they should be overjoyed. And on that front, we are going to move over to another team that should probably be overjoyed if they get out of groups, which is China Gaming, the 2 seed out of China.
Love you, China. We are sorry. We you know, it is just.
I mean, yeah, life is life. In reality is reality. These teams are. I mean, it would be funny. It would be funny when we talk onto EDG, but there is a reason. Like,
To be fair, Jale do have a little bit more pedigree when it comes to these internationals.
yeah.
They have had like results at internationals, right?
Well,
So
they've had
they're-
a result at international.
which was the Sentinels win.
The Sentinels win, yeah. Like they're being termed the worst Masters team of all time or something because their record to this date. This all not a long-standing one in China. I don't think was even a particularly big one in. I don't think they were particularly big in League or anything like that as well. I don't think they've been like a big org, historically speaking. And like China has obviously had a lot of orgs. coming from the Hunan region, I believe, in northern China. So I'm just checking to see if China has ever had like a team in League and team in the other like quote unquote major Western esports, and I think the answer is no. Pretty sure. But yeah,
They
this
may
is
be one of those like mobile game organizations because there was quite a few of those from China.
yeah. I don't even think it was that, to be fair. I think like they were just a very much Liquipedia zero results for other genre gaming organizations. I think they're a team that's basically an internet cafe team that's kind of grown out of that and been very, very successful in that regard. Which you see a few orgs like that in China, to be fair, historically speaking. But okay, fair enough. Look, they went to Ascension, they banged out Ascension in 2024, went into League for 2025, shocked everyone, won stage 1, fourth in stage 2, second stage 1 this split, second kickoff. Kind of like obviously a like Dragon Major Gaming, also an Ascension team. Been a very, very good team for a while, to be fair. The surprise package, basically, of the region as a whole, I'd say. But internationally, haven't done great. They went to Masters Toronto 0202 as a 1 seed. They went to Champions 02 2-1 Sentinel 02 Giants. They went to Santiago 0202. Not been great for them. They're like 2 and 13 or something in international tournaments. Just hasn't been their decade so far, internationally speaking. Again, we have to emphasize this is an organization which has like no presence in any other game. They're doing well, regardless. You can't
Making it here this consistently is good.
Yeah.
As I said, for most organizations, qualifying is the important part, right?
Yeah, exactly. Road to the tournament: 2-0 DRG, 2-1 Trace, 2-0 Nova, 2-1 Wolves, 2-1 EDG, 2-1 like 6-0 in groups. Very good group stage. Most of those games they were contested, went to 3 games, all that sort of stuff, but not bad. Playoffs easily beat Titans and JTG 2-0, 2-0, qualify. 0-2 EDG, 3-1 DRG, 2-3 EDG. They look closer to EDG than they have historically. To be fair, I think it's probably fair to say that they've done well. Good domestic season. Best map in that domestic season, Lotus. They started out the season like most of the teams. Again, I think this is a case of the season started earlier. They had more familiarity on this. This was like the comp at the time, right? If we remember coming out of Santiago. The Wele Neon, they are not on the Wele Neon anymore, and they in fact are playing Standard's least favorite comp ever, I think.
This is hard for me because this is their best map, but unfortunately, this comp is just awful, isn't it? And from what I've heard, also they are the reason that like Fnatic played this comp, and other teams have been playing this comp as well. So they've also gaslit other people into thinking this is good somehow.
Yeah, I mean, and this is obviously getting a lot of fuel to the China just sucks discourse as well. For obvious reasons, like this making this winning because of China. I will say they 13-0 the game with this comp, starting an attack. So we have to ask
13-2 DRG as well.
Yeah, I think So we have to ask, how the fuck do you do that even, right?
I think hating aside, I do think this is a comp that if the other team basically don't know how to play against it or get checked out before the game starts, and you start letting them get onto sites, for example, then the comp is going to do good. Because if they get onto us like C, for example, with utility in hand, you're not going to get through. It's basically you're trying to you're not going to win that retake basically.
So this is what I kind of noticed. I think with this comp, the way it basically works is you abuse the fact the enemy team sees this comp and thinks, fuck, I don't want to push into this in case I get trapped. And I had like a example here of how it's generally set up from this 13-0 game. Just look over here. So Lysor playing on the weak side. They put this trip here. I don't think you can break this trip. I think it's very hard with how the angles work to actually break this trip. They just slowly walk around, like he jiggles it for a little bit, don't give a shit about the beeline. Slowly walk around the map as a pack, give the enemies basically zero indication in a particular spot. Some util, but quite low on util, use it quite late. See here, they trapped him here like 6 times. I don't know why he didn't adjust at some point, but I think this is quite a young player, to be fair. Most rounds went C. They use the wall to basically get over any vice util and block off anything coming from here. They punish you. they punish you the first few times you try to push as well. Spray down boxes, blah blah blah, and that's kind of it basically. They don't go away most rounds. Yeah, go.
The issue is, as I said before, this comp only works if basically teams let them walk into site for free, as they just did, right? If teams contest them on that C mount, for example, if teams fight for C mount, fight for A mount, fight for the choke point, and don't
Yeah,
let them out in the
the
first place, it
but
shouldn't work.
then this is the mental trap that you get into, which is you want to be fighting for these areas, but you then don't want you can't push through off of these areas. So it feels because
I don't.
obviously you lay up so much they can lay up so much util just to fuck you if you try and push through. That can be a tough pill to swallow, basically, right? Particularly for teams who are a little less experienced, a little bit less disciplined on the map in general. Like that can be a hard pill to swallow. I think that's kind of a lot of how the trick works to it. Because like, the whole idea here basically is the enemy has to then on A, the
I
enemy
mean,
has to then take this space. You go.
you have to just realize that when you're playing against, first of all, a comp with no dashes, as soon as you stop them in this choke point with any single piece of utility, it should be impossible for them to get out like alive, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, for example, you're playing against a comp that doesn't really do well in terms of punishing these positions where you need a duelist to be able to run with utility to punish them, right? So if I was, for example, playing against them at Masters, I would tell my team, okay, we're going to go 2-2-3 and leave B completely open, or we're going to go 2-1-2
Yeah.
and we're just going to fight them. And if they want to try and, for example, use utility to fight us back, we're going to be able to say, okay, we'll just go back and then we'll come back in, and we'll go back and we'll come back in. And good luck, you can only throw the deadlock nade so many times. You can only throw so many slow orbs, right? And then by the time for example, you just get them to waste any single piece of util trying to retake. Even if you did the old KC or Heretic style, where you one-weight this C line, you revealed here, maybe even use some piece of util here just to stop them from walking in, and then you did the same thing on A, and you just forced them to use util to retake this. You had an Omen standing here,
Yeah.
and as soon as they use anything, he just TPs out. It's not so much you can do with this comp, right?
Yeah.
So I think it seems like they understand how to play with their comp, but it also seems like the teams they played against don't understand how to play against the comp. So
Yeah.
for me, it's
yeah. I mean, there are even more ways you can sort of contest as well. For example, you can just like sit back here with Hoden and just destroy this immediately. You can take the beeline off of the mid round, which weirdly teams will be way too scared of doing because they were never holding this line in practice. There's a lot of stuff you can do. And obviously, this is a team that I have played against. We did not prep these guys on Santiago, obviously. Kind of consistent with what we got from them on other maps, right? They play a style. They're very, very, very good at doing stuff like this, where it's very non-explosive, very contact heavy. It's designed to throw you off your normal game plan, and if you can't adjust in the moment, then you kind of struggle. Like we had a little bit of an abyss, and this is kind of how I contrast this team. We're wondering, okay, how is this team different from DRG? We both said kind of, well, these teams have risen to the top of their things because they kind of are able to punish teams a little bit in their region in terms of these teams do aggressive stuff and they just beat them. DRG punish teams for doing crazy stuff. Jyli tend to be set up in a way that doesn't so much punish the aggression, it just punishes like the normal way of playing, I would say. And like you see this and you don't know what to do, right? This kind of epitomizes how when they're good, they're really good. This, in my opinion, is why they had one big win at Champs was over Sen, because Sen were like playing super, super default, super stuck in their ways at that point, really easy to read, all this sort of stuff, right? That was their one big international thing, and I think it makes sense because Sen at that point were like a team who were really reaching for comfort, really reaching for what the meta is almost, so that makes sense. Just trying to play super, super default, and then Jyli just came in to won them as a result. I think that's important to understand with this team. On the defensive side, the defense is pretty active, to be fair. So I had a good round here to show them a particular setup that they generally run from Titan Esports Series. So obviously, this comp should be good on defense, and just objectively, pretty typical setup. Stacked util B here to prevent a walk into site, something that they like to do a lot. We didn't really mention on attack. You play essentially for flood util and numbers on one side of the map. You have someone creep up on the other, like this was a consistent thing Happy Way would set a trip really, really deep here. We set a cam here, and he's basically he's just trying to play for the advance warning in case they then come back to him on that side, so they can then rotate over and flood. I mean, we should talk a little bit about how Happy Way in general, right? Because Happy Way has like Fukashi, has a certain reputation in the international community, and I don't think it's a coincidence that both of them are sensible players. To be fair, I think there is some degree to which the play style and the way you have to play on these agents kind of does make them look impressive, particularly to people who are trying to like get past like the level 1 of all duelist players are amazing. We're trying to analyze these games. Happy Way got glazed a lot coming to Santiago, and people just looked at his KD and thought he was a god, basically, because he had like a 1.4 KD in China. And okay, here's the way I describe it, right? People think Happy Way is Steph Curry, and he's not. He is Klay Thompson.
Okay.
He is a dude who gets his shots off his like movement / macro. Obviously, movement has two meanings in this sense, but let's call it macro. That's what he gets his shots off, like he gets his like a lot of kills, reduces his amount of deaths, rather than his shot creation, which kind of works for both analogies actually. That's the way I describe it, right? He is not a shot creator. He is a very smart player. He is going to have a lot of positive impact in a round. He is not just going to go out and like shoot like 4 people in the head just randomly, just taking timings. Like in contrast to Fukashi, who I'd argue is again like a little bit more conservative than people think in terms of at times, but he's more of a shot creator. Right? We saw that 5K from him, right, where it was okay. To be fair, held the first angle, amazing through the second angle, third angle, okay, swing, yeah, but it's like swing, basically after the first one, right? Like Fukashi was a shot. Fukashi maybe is a bit more of a Steph. Happy Way is a Klay Thompson. Very good player, all-star, Hall of Famer, blah blah blah. Sure, not the same player that people are thinking. Actually, on this team, when I was anteing them, the guy who impressed me the most was the initiator player, WS Leo, which is a funny name given Leo, right? He's 25, I believe he's the IGL. Very bad showing at Santiago. Dude seemed to be calling quite well. So dude's like reminds me a lot of Kicks in terms of how he was util, how he was like playing individually, all that sort of stuff, right? Very good usage, all that sort of stuff. Conservative player, but not like Beatty player. I'm not sure why this guy was stuck in Ascension in China for like 4 years. Like he only basically came to. I think he's joined this team. He joined this team this year, I believe. So he wasn't even out the champs run. Very good player though. But yeah, I think they're kind of summed up Joy. They were like a very they're a solid team. They were more of a default team though than someone like DRG, where DRG are kind of making a lot more stuff just come out of nowhere. That's my read. Worst map, Breeze. 9-13 versus Trace, 39 versus Titan, 18-13 VCTG, 13-6 versus DRG, 5-30 versus DOG. They changed comp like 3 times. This is the latest comp that they have landed on for this map. They are playing the double initiator. Omen.
With the Omen, right?
Yeah. Really struggled to figure out this comp for a while. Eventually landed one of the teams off the Chaos over. Cool, info heavy. You need the flashes. You aren't running Harbor, which I think is maybe a mistake on this map. And I was watching the EDG game basically. I saw this pattern basically. Happy Way was on Viper, and they were like playing like 5-4-1-5-0. I sort of started this pattern emerging very quickly, right? Where they're attacking A round after round. They're doing like a narrow wall here, all this sort of stuff, right? They've got it drawn up so he's the weak side player. He's like playing this area after the initial wall. First round, he basically gets up to like here, and then just runs back and joins the team like that. I think they lose the round at the end. Second time round, he's like walked up to like, no. Third time, he doesn't even pretend. They're attacking A 3 rounds in a row. They're like here, and he's just like, put my wall up. I'm just gonna hang back here, be the last one alive in the clutch, basically, yeah. And then like, yeah, he's a conservative player. He's always focused on making the safe play. This is we just see he's not a baser, but this is a limitation for Jolai because you look down the roster, Raga, the duelist, the main duelist, has this reputation for some reason as an insane hype aggro duelist. To be fair, consistent 40% plus first kill, first death sort of guy. Fine, that's kind of the standard you expect aggressive duelists to be to. I think this gets in how aggressive he actually is. It gets exaggerated by reputation, but also by the numbers a little bit because you watch his game, doesn't feel super aggressive or super expansive to me. It's more so just that every time they hit, he'll be the first one in, he'll get the first kill or death, but these rounds it's kind of like, oh yeah, they just played to a 5v5 and he's the first one in. But you look down the roster as well, Lysor, the smokes player, generally pretty conservative. Leo, pretty conservative. Smart players aren't risk takers. I will say, No Man's a weird player. He's aggressive, but he's more so in the sense of like he's going to hold out you to somebody else and get domed doing it. That's kind of his aggression. So this team, very contact heavy, play good fundamentals, good flood, good retake, good at playing out a very clean round overall. This is very different to DRG, where DRG kind of want to punish specific over aggression by you and their opponents. XLG are just like, yeah, we're going to play the round out, we're going to keep our odds up throughout the round, and we're just going to win on the execute, we're going to get like an opening kill, we're just going to have a good thing going in. Now, talking about key player and expectations for this team as a result. Going into
No, wait. I actually have something to say about this.
Yeah.
Uh, so, oh yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so like the big issue I have also with these comps on defense is KO is great on the map, and this in general is quite a like what's the word, like balanced comp, right? It has everything. It doesn't lack anything big. It doesn't have anything big stylistically, right? But the issue that you get into with Omen in general is that the paranoia is quite fake on this map, which is why I've never believed that Omen is better than Astra or Harbor on this map as a secondary smoker, because most of the angles, like it does look like, okay, oh, if you get a paranoia here, uh, it's great, potentially there's a good paranoia here, for example. Again, potentially, there's decent lines. The issue that you run into with Omen with this paranoia, which is the only reason that I would say you would play him on this map outside of elevation in key spots, maybe you would want the TP for up, these positions. Maybe you'd want to be up here or here, right, or up yellow, right? So it's only reasons you'd play Omen is the ult and the mobility and the flash. The problem is the flash is fake, because most of the time when you are, flashing these corridors, first of all, this is not, as we've explained in previous episodes, this is not really an area you want to overcommit to anyway, or you'd want to base your comp around anyway. And second of all, for example, when you're only flashing these key areas, most of the time the second or third man is not going to be blind from this flash, and you being able to swing off of this is not a good angle to swing into. You don't want to, for example, flash like that and swing into. So in order to get value, because again, we've mentioned that these are the areas that you want to fight, right, on Breeze, and in general you want to almost be positioned as defenders to play this area, right? And that's what the good teams are doing, and then the best teams are doing. But the problem is there's no way to play off the Omen flash in this situation, so Neon is going to be quite anemic in terms of what she can actually do behind this, right? Like, for example, the best case scenario for an Omen here is playing almost this position and being able to flash anyone here and then having this guy play off of it, right? But it doesn't seem like they're playing this way, and this is, I think, why teams fall into the trap of Omen, but it's actually quite fake. And it's the same on B as well. Like if you paranoia this, the angle for Neon to get in and then be able to kill this guy without this guy hiding here or here, it's just there is no timing basically to ever punish someone with a paranoia on this map. It's a very fake ability on this map, and I think, if they switch to an Astra, I could see that going a lot better for them. If they switch to a Harbor, I could see that going a lot better for them. And especially in this meta where it's a very fast-paced game, and you have a lot of double duelists, and especially in China, where it seems like, they have Waylay, for example, the Mosquito meta still. Omen's not going to get value from that, because by the time you can punish any of these people with the paranoia is gone anyways, and they've already have a good position to hold.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there's historically been a thing where Lysor just doesn't play Astra. I think he's mainly plays Omen. So, but I think you're right. He probably just needs to make the adaptation at some point. Okay, going into key player expectations. I mean, key player, like I said, I think it's just Leo. He needs to be a lot better at this LAN. He has the potential to. I think if he's shooting a bit harder and he's calling a bit better, then they can win games. To be fair, but I think it all just comes down to
I'd
him.
agree.
There's not much else to really say. Happy Way's obviously the sexy choice, but again, I don't think his game is set up for that stuff. Basically.
Would you not consider Raga either, or is it just he's consistent enough that
yes,
it's not really?
But Raga just kind of always does his job anyway. I think he has a pretty consistent level. He has this reputation for being like a very wild player. I don't think it's really true. I think he's at a very consistent level on this team. I don't think there's like a huge band he can really go to either way. So.
Makes sense. I think it's fair.
Yeah, expectations. Yeah, this is. I mean, this is a team I think is more likely to go 0-10 than DRG.
Oh, really? You think
Yeah.
that way? I thought the opposite way, that they'd be more likely to get a win or two.
No, so this is how I'm thinking. So first of all, opening matchup, say matchup to open Santiago. We destroyed them at Santiago. Wasn't close. They have a better chance against this iteration of NRG because NRG is kind of retreating into a certain style of play that this flood-heavy XOG on defense could punish better, in my opinion. They were pretty good on attack either way last time. I don't think it will happen, obviously. I think they are probably going to just lose this still first match, which means then they get sent down to lowers. And then you look at the lowers, and it's like, okay, well, this sort of more consistent play style where it's not so much it's not so much like a punish thing. It's more just sort of a steady go deep and around, go late and around, blah blah blah. Okay, that being the case, who is Shiloh really going to be better than just beating like these in a straight up fight? That's the problem I'm having. It's kind of hard to see because I think they'll kind
I
of get
guess
outgunned by a lot of these teams.
as much as I hate it, I guess an argument would be like those comps, like the Lotus comp, can catch underprepared teams like off. You know, they
Yeah,
will. If you remember, for example, like it was Trace Esports who beat Vitality and Leviathan with the deadlock combined, right? And when you're
yeah.
underprepared and don't know how to play against it, you can lose to these these gimmick comps, basically. So I think that would be my argument to why I could see them. I'd favor them more to get a win over some
Okay.
of the 0-1 teams than, for example, DRG.
Yeah, I guess it's a question of how you're framing them and how you're thinking about them.
It does seem also they're a little bit more solid. They're a little bit more confident in their style than DRG as well. It seems like
Yeah,
they have a philosophy of how they want to play a game, and obviously they've
yeah,
been to enough internationals at this point where I do think they can
yeah.
get a win.
It's like their fourth international or something as well. I think they were even
Mm,
at we overlooked it, but they were EWC as well. Which was like
yeah.
they took a map off Sentinels there as well, which is quite funny, and then um beat them.
Well, why do these guys just whip Sentinels?
Yeah, just hate Sentinels for some reason.
Did,
Um,
at one of the tournaments, did they not pick Sentinels and beat them as well? Was
I
that
don't
not a thing?
no, they I don't think they did. They picked Sentinels and lost them first time, so maybe that's why they hate them now.
Okay.
Because this was the
Okay.
Toronto tournament where they first picked Sentinels out of Sentinels, PRX, Wolves, and Gen G. I guess the argument would be why the hell aren't you picking? I think they picked them anyway. I'm not sure because Riot change how these brackets are drawn every single time, which is really annoying. For some reason I don't know why. In any case,
Uh, expectations, not making it out of groups. Best case would be making it out of groups
pretty much yeah.
for them.
I
Similar
think
territory as DRG, pretty much.
if I had to guess right now, I'd say probably I put Stem and Foot as my 0-2 teams. Obviously, but that depends entirely on the draw and stuff like that. But yeah, it's maybe they're experienced enough. Maybe they've had enough tournaments now that they can find something. They did hire a new assistant coach for this event, who was the guy who was Fade. It was the guy who was on the Wolves run back at Masters Toronto. So maybe there's something there, but probably not. Yeah, I mean, I like the guys. They're very nice guys. We met them at Champs, all that sort of stuff. I just don't see it. I just don't see how they're going to get past any of these teams, basically, unfortunately for them. So, moving on in that case. Okay. EDG. So,
Edge
first off,
gaming.
route to the tournament. Pretty simple run for them. Domestically, 2-0 Nova, 2-0 Wolves, 2-0 Trace, not close. 2-1 DRG, a little bit close. 1-2 XLG. Surprised, unusual loss for them. Win the seeding game 2-1 against JDG. 2-1 DRG, opening round of playoffs. 2-0 AG, 2-0 Jai, 3-2 Jai.
Just seems like they polished it off.
Yeah,
It does look like Autumn has kind of brought a little bit of their mojo back, at least in the region, right?
yeah. I mean, I've seen people. So I don't generally look at list stuff, but I have seen people like it has been like a lot of oh, this is my predictions. This is my like tier list for this event that's been coming up a lot from people on like Reddit and stuff like that the last couple of days. A lot of people have EDG very, very high this event, and unusually so. Well, I mean, I think there's always a degree to which China one seed kind of gets the benefit of the doubt in terms of, well, they've won every match so far, and even if China is the weakest of the four regions, not everyone's like scarred from like EDG 2024. No one was predicting that low. So I think that helps a little bit. But I've seen a lot of people putting EDG like top 4 at this event, which I think is probably too much, but we'll get into it as we go forward. So start out with Split. You can make the case here, I think, for Fracture or Breeze as well. But
So
yeah.
one thing I kind of want to mention, which I think has been a big reason, because they were shaky after that jump. Since that jump on, they've been shaky even in their own region. They even like failed to qualify to a tournament, didn't they? I think it was
Yeah.
champs even.
Yeah. No, they got to champs. I think they failed to get to Toronto.
Perhaps, yeah. So the full comp are they running Omen, yeah? And
Yeah.
Viper, I want to say. Is that correct?
Omen, Viper, Sky, Jet, Raze. So it's a
So
traditional APAC fight comp.
this looks like they have gone full comfort like PRX, and I really think it's a good thing. I think it's why you see the kind of resurgence they're having now. It seems like they're just comfortable on their characters. Kankan, of course, is extremely comfortable on the Jet. That's his character. They're all comfortable on their heroes, basically. And I think that helps a lot for a team like this. Most of the time when you have a team that's that talented, you actually don't need to do a lot. You just want them to be in like correct situations a lot, right? And I think the interesting part, I think, for me to talk about is that they are running concepts that have existed for a long time, but they are doing them super well. And with this comp, I kind of want to highlight a few things on their attack. So number one, Viper is playing super well on his weak side, but more importantly, when you're playing Jet Race specifically, who have the pathways they have, you have two different approaches. You have either a double pathway approach or a separate pathway approach. Now, what does that mean? That means, for example, that Jet is going to go out and he's going to dash as far as possible and break as many lines as possible. And then Raze will have the choice of either following up and pathing deeper with him or taking the second timing and pathing towards the other side. And what this does is that once Jet is out in the out in basically like these kinds of areas, what's going to happen is he's going to smoke himself, maybe even double smoke himself, and a sky flash is going to come through this. This is what I call loud style, where basically the way they're going to usually do is the flash is always going to come out of the smoke, and it's a pop flash basically. It's a really good flash most of the time, right? Especially if you time it correctly. And what happens is when Raze, for example, has the choice of pathing, if he paths here, Raze is basically just going to be playing 1-2 man with the Jet and trading for the Jet / like taking the angles. If he comes out second, for example, and for example, he's gonna, maybe they're gonna have a paranoia on this side, they're gonna maybe have like a second sky flash or a sky dog. What ends up happening is because you have to look at Jet, because if you don't look at Jet when you're playing, when they're flashing like this area, all of this is getting flashed, right? And if you don't look at this Jet, Kankan will peek out the smoke and just one tap you, right? So you have to focus on him. But when you focus on him, this allows Raze basically to come in and most of the time get the free kill on this guy or this guy, and this will just collapse the site completely. And they're doing this super well. And they're picking the timings on when they're doing it together super well. They're picking the timings on when they're separating / when they are when they're going together super well. It's just super coordinated, and the sky flashes have been super good as well, right? And this is why I think they're playing so good right now, is because it almost seems like they've just gone back to basics and they're just playing what they know is good, right? And it works in this meta as well. I think we said at the start of the split, and I remember saying even that I think Jet Raze is actually super playable if you're a team like PRX, if you're a team like EDG, where you've been playing this for years. You're just going to be so much better, even if it's not necessarily the most optimal. You're just gonna feel more comfortable, and comfort is king in Valorant at some point. Yeah, again, two separate pathways, and it's the same thing on A, where and you remember we used to play this in Vitality with this is Bone Cold split, right? And it was super good split, where if Jet is going to dash Rafters, then Raze is going to go out here, and the reason Jet is dashing Rafters is because this elbow guy and anyone on site now has to pay attention to him, and in general, Raze is going to get a lot of value, for example, from being that second man in, either going elbow or going onto site, for example. I'm not sure if you can still make it as far onto site as you used to be able to with the satchel changes, but what's going to happen is you're going to get a paranoia. The Jet's going to break the lines here, for example. They're going to be able to see if anyone is in this close area, and in general, these spots have to focus on the Jet, and that allows the Raze to then come out onto and be that second man and clean up basically most of the time. So it's also why in these comps you generally see the Raze actually forming a little bit better. I think in this instance it is still Kang, so obviously he's probably still having incredible numbers, right? Yeah, I mean Kang with 28 kills on this one. So yeah, I think That's really good, and that's kind of what you're seeing a lot on defense. They're super active. The duelists are super good at taking their timings and taking their spaces and playing this like fast paced game where they're flooding a lot and they're flooding. You know how it works with these comps where, for example, if you're kind of in these positions as the team's coming out, you want to see your Jet and your Rays kind of dashing out and killing people trying to run in and kill the side guy. Why the bunker player is kind of trying to buy time, right? They're doing this super well, and it looks super good right now. And I think. I mean, maybe you'll have more points, but I think for me, these are the big things they're doing really, really well. Otherwise, the classic set plays of sending two duelists into heaven to take quick heaven control, and then having people peek and hold down these lower lines are super good. They're being able to create question marks for Viper, for example, when he wants to walk, and they're playing off of the space that Viper gets very well as well. So yeah, overall, just super, super good. They're not reinventing the wheel, but they're playing super, just solid and well.
Yeah, I mean, on the defense side, I mean, I think one thing we should mention is they do the Nongshin Wall down mid. Smoggy will play the close spots all the time on this map on the Rays, as he's right to. Kankan will just get a sheriff and just play in front of like his own rules, play like a very developed angle progression, very aggressive angle progression. That's the number one thing you fixate.
It does seem like
go.
If you remember, we mentioned, I think it was Anders who mentioned it, that there are teams that use this wall but don't actually play behind it and don't actually do anything behind it. It does seem like they've been really good at actually giving threat to a lot of the Viper walls they use, basically, on attack and defense.
Yeah. I mean, this has always been a thing. This is like the number one thing you fixate on when anti-ing this team in terms of their defense. Is basically Kang is going to play like as far forward in terms of the angle progression as he can, and he's going to get picked randomly off of that sort of stuff. So you have to be preparing for him from the walk up from quite deep out. So that's kind of like a big thing with this team in our experience. So I have obviously played this team. We played it the first map against. We played the first series against the champs. It was one of our weaker games of prep because they got the advantage of getting to end the split super early, something that we don't talk about because China doesn't do well in general, but they actually get a big advantage from being able to end these splits super early, in my opinion, for these big tournaments, but whatever. They got to rework a lot of stuff. Abyss was coming into pool. We had nothing to go on for the Abyss. What we did have kind of suggested a team that did a lot of comfort stuff, had lost the level since Simon left. And like if you watch their split, for example, pull this round up because I think it's like a very quintessential EDG attack round. Worth having a look at. So G2 starts on weak side. Like his hero Nats, he plays pretty passive in practice these days because teams actually it's hard to walk up here anymore. It doesn't really happen. Obviously, you can see this team just be using Uto again and again to stop any walk up. Either Sky or Fade.
They're getting a lot of bang for their buck from a lot of their util as well, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, he's still getting a walk up into there, and they just dog him. And I think they use ult, they use everything, right? This is like a very good round from him, just baiting out util. They Sky ulted here in the meantime, by the way. But you look at the pack of the three and the rest of them, right? Pack of 3 or 4, Nugar and Smokes. Kang plays a little bit off of the bets for his team in general. It's kind of like more like a 1-3-1. He's trying to get a bit of solo value here. Ultimately, they're playing very, very condensed. So, in theory, once you get a read on the pack, you should be able to get a good read on them for the whole round. That was like a big thing we saw at Champs. The only way generally they break that deadlock historically is Kang walk up on a random angle or they clear you off close somewhere, and then they're pretty explosive after that point, right? These players have been playing together for a long time apart from Gianni. Like nobody Kang Chi-Chi Smoggy, I think, been playing together like 4 years now. I think they made the 3-man core's been there for a long time. I don't remember who they brought in as the 4th guy, but in any case, a long time. And there's variation between that. They focus different lobbies game to game. They'll do some stuff to throws you off a little bit of Sky util. They executes obviously they've got the ability to go 2-layer in terms of how they're pathing out. There isn't a huge amount of depth to their game, in my opinion. So how do they keep winning is the question, because we can say weak regional we want, right? But they've been noticeably more consistently XLGs or DRGs. They struggle internationally post Simon. I think their one big win was they beat 100 Thieves at EWC, and that's pretty much it. But they keep winning, but domestically, right? And they all seem to be a threat in these series. And there's a couple of things to it. Firstly, Kang still amazing rifler. They know his value. They maximize his value with stuff like this all the time. Does need to be emphasized. There's levels to this stuff. You can kind of tell by contrasting with DRG, for example, where Okay, good team. Fukashu is a crazy rifler. Are DRG getting the max value out of Fukashu compared to how ETG use Kang? I don't really think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't. Maybe they are you getting the best out of him. I think there's levels to this, right? And the second thing was this whole pack heavy, concentrated like 4-1/1-3-1, but it's kind of they're holding bare minimum space on the weak side. What actually is your plan against it? Okay, because let's put it like this: if you push into it, so let's say we drop the typical 1-3-1. Let's say it looks like I don't know, like this. What's your plan into this? Because first of all, if you try and insta push into this, and like obviously they have this big lobby take, which is a huge part of their attack. If you try and insta push into this team was played out the opening 15 seconds of this round so many times that if you try and just go for like some aggressive play, 2-man play, 3-man play here, you're probably losing that fight. Because they're just so used to playing together. If you retake against them, you say, fuck it, we're not going to contest you in the first angle, we're just going to kind of fall back, we're going to like get a retake on you. This team has been playing together forever, they're going to beat you in either a fast or slow 5v5, the synergy is good there. So like generically, you probably want to maintain information, be aware of what Kang likes to do, hold sites, but then playing that info game against them, obviously very hard with current comps. Very weak info util on the current comps. That's why we had the duelist thing where you generally have to take space actively, you have to like maintain the line, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, look, you have to hit your shots against them. You're playing from the back half of sites, a lot of the time nothing optimally. Like you're playing like up here and up here, very nervy position to play in general because you're holding a general area rather than a single angle a lot of the time. A lot of stuff they can do about it. I think that's kind of the thing with EDG. If you think I'm a better team than EDG, you are not particularly scared of them. But if you're in a position where you're trying to figure out how do I beat this team, you will usually just lose. And it really feels like in China in particular, you only have Xiaolan and maybe Tai Lu, who are teams that can like confidently play to their own game rather than having to try and chase games a lot. I think that's kind of the key to how EDG plays. And this doesn't necessarily bode poorly for how they're going to have to play internationally and the teams they're going to play against internationally, because I think some of those teams are going to still feel they have to chase into EDG. But I think that's why they have this domestic dominance. And I think we can move on here to Haven. So again, Haven, arguably not their worst map. 2-2 on it, 2 losses to Jai, beat Trace, beat JTG. We're showing this one because it tends to show where things start to come apart for EDG more than anything, even if it's not strictly speaking their worst map. So let me just double check what the comp was for EDG. I think it's like standard comp for stuff again. Yeah, it's they're running the Neon Phoenix here. They're running Neon, they're running Phoenix. Cypher. Cypher, yeah. Fade and Omen. That's a pretty standard comp. So their attack for the
I
most
don't like
part.
the Fade. I'm not sure about you, but I just on this map, I think the Fade is it's like Pearl almost, where you don't have enough to clear out long, C long, A long. It's just too many deep angles where Fade just struggles basically.
Yeah, the dog's weird, the eye is bad. Yeah, I don't love it. Now the attack on this map is kind of the same as ever. I believe it's still him playing weak side, but it's like grouped up 1-3-1, 1-4 concepts a lot of the time. Note because the natural lines on this map are pretty CC sided, I'd argue. They have to start their walk up when they go from very deep. It's not like split where they're able to basically take B lobby, execute from B lobby. It doesn't work that way. That being said, the attack's okay. Kang's on Neon here. Tempo's up well. He opens up a lot of rounds for them. I think he was 16-7 after the first 8 rounds against Jai Life, for example. So like cool. Impactful kills each time. Smoggy's also fine in terms of playing the Phoenix. They scale slowly enough that opportunities to maybe punish them, but it's scaled pretty well. But the defense is not good. And the problem they have is they're just stretched way too thinly across the entire map, basically. They're stretched super thinly. Kang's, again, I mentioned some defense. Kang's thing on split is like he'll play like the equivalent of like up here and up here. He'll like use the Viper or ball. He'll take a very aggressive first angle. He'll play the back of the aggression. He'll get you killed off of that, basically. then when he's on the Neon on this map, he has the ability in terms of his own agent. He doesn't have the ability in terms of the agents in general. So you'll see that here, for example. This is what his aggression looks like basically on this map as a result. This is already 20 seconds into the round. He's just like hanging out in Link here. He does go for very slowly, very slowly, very slowly. But you can see like he's having to start up from so far back, and he's taking an hour lurk up onto mid, and people know the hour lurk at this point. This gets caught immediately. Easy punish. There, look how far they have to track back every single round. They have some scepter on garage when they're playing shotgun or Odin or whatever. Never feels that coherent. Always kind of feels like they're in their own spawn a lot of the time, and like nobody's trying to take a random timing here because he kind of has to. But that's kind of the thing with them. When they're on a map where it favors their playstyle, which is mainly speaking maps where Can pull off some crazy stuff, has the comp around him to be super aggressive, add a ton of value to him around by himself and on defense, and where the tendency to like contact a bit and start everyone at 115 is harder to punish, they look pretty solid, right? 5-0 on Breeze, for example, double controller on Jet. One average defense, half hard there. This is what I have a problem with, though. People like saying this is potentially a top 4 team. Nothing I saw in terms of their playoffs, in terms of maps reviewed, all this sort of stuff, really makes me think, wow, this is a team that's got something special going on. When
I
they're
know
on
what
a
you
map,
mean.
what?
I know what you mean. Like
Yeah,
they don't have that X factor like they used to, or like for example G2 Heretics and these
yeah,
teams kind of do.
yeah. They're solid, sure, but a lot of teams are solid. And the ceiling on this team just feels low because unless if they're not on a map that doesn't enable that, which is like Breeze, which is I guess arguably split right now, maybe. When they're trying to play another like a different style, they're really, really, really average, and you like it's just a case of you just don't beat better teams when you play like that. And I don't
I
think
think
also, the meta's also not going in a direction we should say as well because Smoggy's like a good Razor and a good Phoenix, but this feels like a double controller team fundamentally, and they can't run it
mm,
on a lot of maps.
I I think my issue also with their defense right now is when I feel like when they were at their best during the champs run was when it wasn't like you said that they were doing a lot of contacting, solo man contacting. When they were at their best, it was when they were free man pushing things, and then for example, the people like Chichu were doing really well in terms of, for example, if his team was free man pushing this hard, he would get 2 here on A, for example,
Yeah,
because he'd play some off angle and he'd play super aggressive. They're not really doing this right now. They're playing as you said, like super spread out, super slowly. Whereas I want to see them kind of doing those again, those we're going to basically give Kanka everything to go in and try and kill 2 people, and if he doesn't, then Smoggy or the Cypher, for example, is just going to do something interesting and make
yeah,
a play and get a kills, basically. And you think about, for example, Lotus, the tree. You think about Abyss, that infamous round where Kankan goes down and kills 2, but he has like 3 flashes behind him and stuff. Like you think about these situations, I kind of want to see them revert back to playing like that almost,
yeah,
and we'll do what works for them on attack so well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it is difficult because I don't know where, like in terms of comp changes as well. I don't know where they can really change on these. How I'd like to see them play. Maybe they can do it on Lotus. Maybe they can do it on Pearl with they're using Jet Astra on Pearl. It's been working out for them so far. Maybe it keeps working out. I don't know. I think if you're talking about seriously as them as top 4 team with expectations of top 4, you are setting them up to fail.
Mm.
This team will go. This team obviously gets to China first. They go straight into playoffs. Cool. I think their expectation just be win a series and
Yeah,
show that
I think I think
they
it
finally got
depends on
something
who they
better
get
than they've
against
had in
them.
the last few years. Yeah,
I think for them, 1 or 2, like getting top 4 would be good for them. That's like the best case scenario, I
yeah,
would say right now.
yeah,
I would agree with that.
yeah. I think people overrate them a little bit, and I don't get it. Like if we're talking about like a miracle run, like just the China team comes together and has this once a year miracle run, because obviously we did see that, funnily enough, at Masters 2 last year as well. So at Champs for Shanghai, yeah, we saw after Shanghai and Champs that year. It
They
doesn't.
obviously have the ability to do it, but
They have
it's
the ability, but I get it. But I don't. I just don't feel the way they're set up is like making me think, wow, this team is quick on a miracle run. It doesn't feel like
the
that. Like,
issue is also that the champs run was heavily reliant on Kang being outrageously good, like
yeah,
like breaking records and stuff, and it's just not something reliable, kind of.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think expectations for this team are going a little bit out of control, but Is what it is.
They'll make it out of groups for sure.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. Good job. Okay, so summing up now. Fourth episode. We're going to sum up a little bit. A few couple of points to discuss. So the first thing first. Who's our 13th team for the event? Who do we wish was there out of all the teams that didn't qualify?
I'm a bit biased, but BBL. I
Yeah.
think BBL got hit harder than they maybe should have by when you guys stole the win against them. No, but I think they got hit by that, and I think it did shake their confidence a little bit. And I think also the amount of hate they got for just being a bit cocky, like, did shake them. And I know how kids can be, and Turkish kids especially, and it can mess with you, right? It's understandably so. I think also the method, like just changing and them not having enough time to really figure everything out, hurt them. Like we saw them play like the breach on Haven and all that. Maybe, I mean, they're still playing it perhaps, but I think in general, they kind of did get a little bit unlucky and probably also did overthink a lot of things that led to the underperformances they had. It was so obviously like the biggest just confidence thing ever. I think Lovers Rock was also kind of struggling a little bit, maybe in his own, you know how he can be a little bit in his own head sometimes and a little bit in his own way. And I also do think maybe he was getting underutilized a bit, especially after being on Yoru, which was such a self-sufficient character, then having to switch into a completely different role when you're not as self-sufficient and maybe you're not being set up in the same way, because Larok, I think, is very much the guy in that team. So it is a lot harder. I think he was getting overhated a lot as well. I mean, he's doing much better now in the EWC. He just had a stellar best of 5 in EWC, right? So you know, we have the hindsight of, or the benefit of hindsight now with the EWC run. I think BBL would have been at least the first team that comes to my mind that, like, if they were there, actually, I could see them doing well. And you know, if they have this form, they can keep going. So yeah, I'll go with BBL.
I'm going to go with KRX. One, because it'd be funny if Global and
Good show.
KRX both qualified to the event. But more so because, look, they easy to forget now because obviously they ran into full sense and they went to Paper X and lowers. I mean, we can argue the full sense result a little bit self-inflicted because of subbing out Young for Hermes, because just Hermes things, I guess. But we forget they were 4-0 to start the split. They looked really, really good. Young looks really, really, really good. I think they would have been competing for top 4 at this event.
They've just always been super consistent. They go under the radar, right? The issue I have is that they did have a lot of those in-team issues, right, with Bane and
Yeah,
I forget the other guy's name even now,
yeah.
but
But like every Korean team seems to have like a rotating cast of characters for whatever reasons. It seems to be part of
right.
the thing. But yeah, no, I mean that roster is. I mean, they had the thing with Flashback, and they had like the drama with
Flashback. There we go. Bane
apparently
and Place.
that ditched them apparently just to go stream. Who knows what's
Which does sound rough, by the way. So the
yeah.
fact that they actually did still do good in the split is quite
Yeah,
impressive, actually.
bounce back after how they have all that sort of stuff. So fair enough. Like, but
Mm.
yeah, it's disappointing. And obviously we won't see them at EWC either because they kind of struggled online against all these teams as well, which is unfortunate. And there is a degree to which I'm a little bit worried that maybe there has been a history of like the young super aggressive Korean players kind of get like it beaten out of them a little bit. Just in terms of how the organizations work. Young had a really bad last series against Longshim in the qualifiers, for example. Which was pretty rough. They've got him on to was he playing? I think they're
In EWT, you mean, yeah?
yeah, in EWC that they've moved him on to it. They've moved Freeing back to Sentinel. They were trying him on like Viper and Harbor, which is Harbor I can kind of see,
Doesn't
but
fit really what
it's not really his game, yeah. Like he's good at the sensor, he's good at like the weak side sort of play, he's good at finding space, all that sort of stuff. They kind of dropped him, I think, because after the GE series, GE like really put a sword to him, even though GE lost the series ultimately. So I have to hope that they're not going to be silly with him in terms of how they treat him, how his career's going forward. But that would definitely be my pick. I don't think there's no one in Americas really where it's just like I would.
you can say like 100 Thieves, but I don't think 100 Thieves were going to do much at the tournament,
Yeah,
right?
I don't think so. And then yeah, I think those are probably the two best shouts, to be honest. Unless you're at one of these regional fans in the EMEA who was like, no, I really wanted to see, but I'm not going to single out a team because I don't want their fans to kill me. But you get the idea. Okay, I think that's fair. So moving forward, we're not going to do the full pick and prediction, all that sort of stuff. You kind of got our thoughts on it. If you want to go and dig through it, you can kind of figure it out anyway. Be honest, there is like a pecking order to it, but
We did say a lot of teams are making it out group, to be fair.
yeah, but okay, so this is the thing. Who do we think are the 4 teams to actually start up with? Because I don't know what we're going to do to have the content during the tournament itself anyway. Let's start with who we think out of 8 teams in group stages. Who do we think is making it out?
So, like, I'm tied up in a warehouse, gun to my head. I have to pick, right?
Yeah, pick 4.
Which is how I like to imagine all of my scenarios, of course.
Okay,
NRG. This is actually quite rough, isn't it?
it's not easy.
NRG, Vitality, Leviathan, and GE, I would say.
Okay. So that would be Jai Dragon Ranger.
But in full sense going out.
Full sense going out. Okay. I think I have to go DRG and Jai coming out, even though I kind of think one of them's going to get a win over someone. I think Foot for me are clearly the worst of non-Chinese teams. I think Foot are just going out. I think Full Sense makes it through. I think Global makes it through. So that leaves
So
one
that you have
NRG. So that's Full Sense going through, Global going through. That leaves one slot for NRG, Leviathan, and Vitality.
so you have 2 of them going out.
One of them going out.
Mm.
I think by default.
He's thinking who he'd rather piss off here, you know.
I think by default, I have to have Leviathan going out if I'm saying that GE is going to come through. I think NRG obviously not inconceivable that they lose a Charlo game, but realistically, they're kind of starting the group 1-0. Vitality, same thing. They kind of start the group 1-0. I don't buy the upset argument for DRG against them. To be honest, I just think they're too experienced. And then I think probably that means they'll meet Global and they'll meet Full Sense in uppers. I don't know what happens in those games at this point. But I do kind of feel like those 4 teams are then going to probably be the ones. Like you can make a case for Full Sense wins the first game and loses the next 2. But I'm not entirely convinced by that.
If you ask me which team is the most likely, basically out of the 4 I didn't pick to make it too upset, my choice would be Full Sense. By the way,
yeah. So I think I'm gonna say Full Sense gets out, and I'm gonna say NRG, Vitality, Full Sense, Global. So which means Leviathan
GE fighting.
Yeah, I guess. And Leviathan just goes home early. Foot goes home early. I think Foot is pretty uncontroversial. I think a lot of people have them as the weakest team now, just on the basis of obviously recency, but also on the basis, to be fair. If we talk about regional strength, I think most people would say EMEA is probably the third of the 4th regions. It's quite hard on the basis of international results and the basis of this sort of stuff to make a narrative that puts them above APAC or Americas. So to be fair, 30 out of
There
EMEA.
is no narrative. There is absolutely no narrative. Yeah. We haven't been a region since Leo retired.
Yeah. So Foot, I think, is uncontroversial. Leviathan, I think, will probably surprise some people. I mean, I think I've seen people kind of. There is some you see some people saying NRG might lose out, which I can't see it happening in groups. Maybe they just yeah.
Go on. I was gonna say, to be fair, out of all of the internationals we've had, I do think this is one of the ones that is the most stacked, because if you think about the teams that we have going out, what I have going out, which is Foot, Full Sense, and Leviathan, all of those teams could make a deep run in this tournament, mate. They could Foot could 100% just have some crazy momentum and just like start barreling through teams. Same with Full Sense, same with Leviathan. You know, this is the first time where the worst teams of the tournament, that the level is much higher than it's been in the past, I would say. You know.
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument. I mean,
it's going to be a good tournament.
Santiago was. I mean, to be fair, it's always hard to say this before something, because Santiago on paper looked Well, I guess Santiago's weird because Santiago, the 2 and 3 seeds looked really good in the first seeds. Well, that was we had questions about because it was what all gamers we'd never seen
It-
internationally and didn't do much. It
BBL
was
Furia.
yeah, Fury, which was like super super dicey. BBL, which we knew were going to be good, but we didn't really think we're going to go there the whole way the first time. And APAC first seed was Longchamp, which, to be fair, lived up to expectations. Yeah, I mean, I would say the group stage here is a little bit. I mean, I guess to be fair, also it's a question of there aren't so many legacy orgs in it this time. Well, we think
Hmm.
about the big orgs for reputations, obviously. Sen didn't make it. Funny calling MLBI legacy org given how they've been up until like 2 years ago. But MLBI didn't make it. EU Fnatic didn't make it. Liquid didn't make it.
No Fnatic, no Liquid. Yeah.
Yeah. No Korean team made it. First time ever.
Interesting. Also, yeah.
Pretty sure first time ever.
Oh, is that the first time ever?
I
Wow.
I think so. Yeah. Well, to be
I
fair,
think that's just a byproduct of how competitive Pacific is. By the way.
yeah. To be fair, I mean, it hasn't been a dominant team. I mean, DRX has been the strongest one historically speaking, but DRX, yeah, because it was. It was funny that we had like this worship of Vision Strikers at the start of the game, and they just never showed up to land basically
Yeah.
until they became. It was like they were like an 80 game winning streak, and then they missed the first LAN.
Oh
And
yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
And then they showed up to the other ones that didn't really do
well,
much. Just were kind of
they showed up to Berlin. They were good. They were like solid in Berlin, but the Berlin format was also this like single limb still, yeah. And they ran immediately into Prime Gambit, and then they wanted champs, and they were bad at champs. To be fair, uh, they played Full Sense at champs. I forgot Full Sense was an org that was in the in the champs 2021.
that is crazy actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the Thai team, but yeah, they destroyed Full Sense, lost Fnatic, and then they lost to C9, which is more surprising. C9 went to an international event and actually made top 8. That was
Yeah, I forgot C9 has been to an international events. Doesn't feel right to say,
I
does
mean,
it?
legacy orgs missing from Americas here. No. Sentinels didn't make the event. MIBR didn't make the event. Fury didn't make the event. C9 didn't make the event. All the legacy orgs that we've seen in so many
100
internationals.
Thieves,
100 Thieves didn't make the event. Of course, we got to calm down at some point, yeah.
EG, World Champions.
Yeah, okay, bro. Okay, bro. Okay. Yeah, but in all seriousness, it is. Yeah, it's a little. There's a little bit of a change of the guard. I feel like, which we kind of start to see at Santiago, and we're kind of seeing more of here. So it's a
I
pretty
think
stacked
this
event.
is the healthy. This is the healthiest it's looked. Like in terms of like also the European teams aren't as bad as they've been in the past. Like in the past, it was like the European level was shocking, and then like Fnatic was decent. But now actually, like you could make an argument for all of the European teams being actually
Mm,
somewhat decent.
yeah,
The NA teams are, like you've got G2 there, Leviathan there, and RG also all going to be good. The APAC teams, all three of them are going to be good. I think China is the one that drags the farthest behind, but you actually have quite a stacked tournament in this sense.
yeah. I mean, even with China, to be fair, maybe there's a point. Maybe there's a switch gets flipped at some point there. Um, I mean, Joylai are like interesting because I feel like they're a team that they keep getting these chances to figure it out, basically. And maybe once they figure it out, they'll defy all of expectations. Probably not, but there is a chance there. And ETG is still ETG, and DRG, we're going to see how good Fukashi can be when he's against like teams that are really preparing for him as well. So we'll see, but yeah, it's pretty good. So that just about wraps it up for our. Oh, we do actually have a couple more. Okay, so who's going to win this event? First off, dark horse candidate, top like the second tier, and then who you actually think is going to win it all, which can be the same one if you want to, but I think realistically there's probably 3 teams that we'd actually expect to be favourites for this event, so we'd be picking one of those. First off, your dark horse.
I would say the dark horse of Vitality.
Okay.
And yeah, I would say the dark horse of Vitality because I think they're just one tier below NRG, G2, PRX, Heretics. So I think those 4 are like the top 4 candidates, and then Vitality is just one below them. So I think that naturally makes them the best dark horse, right? Like any of those other 4 teams, you can't really class them as a dark horse, I'd say.
Okay. I think that's fair. I
With
mean,
that honorable mention to global esports, but love you, Frost, but I don't buy that you guys will like just run through the whole tournament. I mean, I'm sure he'll prove me wrong and call me an asshole if they do, but yeah, I think. And I like G. I think they could do something, but I think Vitality is like the biggest dark horse here. They have the most potential to upset everyone and
yeah,
just smoke everyone. You know.
yeah, like they're the team that if they can make it into playoffs, they could just make a run through the upper bracket. I think that's the way to
Yeah.
put it. And it is, I think this is going to be the first tournament we've seen in a while where I would expect probably three of the four upper bracket teams win their opening match. It's Heretics, G2, Paper X, and EDG. Maybe EDG gets one, someone else loses one. I think it's the first time where we're looking at it and looking like, okay, the upper bracket teams should be winning. The first seed should be winning this event, or should be winning these early matches. So I think that's fair. Vitality, the one team who could really upset them. I would say on my dark horse, I think it probably is just Vitality. It kind of it's a little bit hard to see which of these teams really makes a run. Apart from that, like we can sort of expect almost to make a run. I guess Leviathan would be the other shouts, but even though we don't think they're getting out of groups, because
That would be a dark horse run if we have them not making it out of groups, and they, they
yeah,
could maybe do it.
yeah. I mean, I just think, I mean, all the teams have had some dark horse runs before. It's been more common that they kind of turn up to
Yeah.
internationals. They've not really been there, but they have. Obviously, we had the 2021 one, so it has happened. And King, obviously. I mean, we could argue probably. I don't know how people were rating 2024 Leviathan. To be fair, coming to that event,
2024, Olivia.
yeah, well, they made it to third place. This was
Definitely weren't
yeah,
rated as third place, but people knew they had the quality. They were kind of like Vitality at that point, like Vitality is now, I would say.
yeah, that's
Because
fair.
they had the marquee names. They had Aspas. I think they had Com. They had obviously King. I
Yeah,
forget the other. I think Tex was one, and then I forget the fifth. But
Aspas King takes Comazino,
yeah, so
and
they had like a legit roster.
yeah, they've been like they struggled in groups because Trace was just on a madness, but they were also reigning champions of Americas. Again, that's not something we really weight that high. But yeah, I could see I could see Leviathan being. I guess that if we're gonna have different picks, I'd say Leviathan, but we don't have to have different picks. It probably is Vitality. Okay, in terms of who's actually winning the event, who do you think?
I think it's going to be a Heretics G2 final, and I like both of the teams, man.
Mm.
I'll back Heretics just because I think. No, I'm not sure. That's actually a hard one, man.
Yeah,
Global esports. No, I think G2 is going to win this one.
I also have G2 winning this event. I think they're going to. There's like a barrier they're going to break through. I think in this event. I just have that feeling. With regards to the stuff I talked about with Bannon, with regards to, I think this is going to be his crowning event. We can't call it a breakout event because he's been so good for so long, but it's like his crowning event. I think. I think he'll get his flowers. I think Josh RT will get his flowers. I think it's going to be kind of like that. I think Baby Bear will get his flowers. I think it's going to be one of those sorts of events for them. I mean, it's coming into a very comfortable situation as well for them. Obviously, the time zone adjustment is pretty big, but they're coming as first seed, which helps a lot with that. Culturally very similar country to America, which I think helps a little bit for some of the Americas teams compared to Paris, where it's full of French people. No comment. Yeah. In any case, I
Of
think.
course, opposed to London, which is full of English people, which is just a lot better, right? But
I mean, yeah, no comment. No comment. Zero comment. Yeah, I think G2. And obviously we are saying basically Paper X won't make finals here, which I think is a little bit controversial. I think a lot of people have Paper X quite high.
it's a toss up between Heretics, PRX, and
Yeah,
G2. To be
I
honest, it's
think
like literally, I think it's like a 33% chance, or like rather, let's say like they all have a 25% chance, and then like NRG has a little bit of a chance, and then
yeah, I've Paper X a little bit lower to be fair. I think there is a meaningful difference because I think they kind of benefit a little bit from comfort and a little bit from the way they rid through the region regionally. So I think like obviously because they're coming off a 3-0 3-0. We can't forget that, but I also and in what we think is probably the strongest region. I just don't think. Yeah, I think they're going to have a little bit rougher time here. I think they're going to fall a little bit short again. I think third place is probably realistic for them. And yeah, I've a pretty clear. I think that's a pretty clear top 3 for me. I don't think anyone else is really coming. I'd be surprised if anyone else comes too seriously close in that regard. That's kind of how I'm looking at coming. I don't think EDG is up there. Vitality obviously can make the dark horse run, but I would be surprised. There are teams that can maybe spar with the big boys down there. Global's probably going to be quite good. Maybe Full Sense. The meta, to be fair, the Full Sense, a lot of stuff is going in Full Sense's direction. But I think there are just limitations for that team that are probably going to get exposed. So yeah, but I think I'm also on the G2 train for this. So that's what we got. Just you heard it here first. G2 are finally going to win the 17th event that they're favourites at. Coming in as favourites at.
Why'd you do that? You said all those nice things, and you did that.
I mean, it gets to a point. Gets to a point at some point.
Well, welcome to the podcast where even if we think you're sick, we're still going to find a way to jab you.
Yeah. I'm curious actually who the odds makers, what the odds makers have as the favourites for this one. You had something to say?
Go.
Go.
I was just going to do the outro.
Oh, yeah, let's just do the outro.
So thank you for joining us through the 4 episodes of this almost like special edition of Untitled. I assume there will be a little bit of a lag between now and our next podcast due to certain things that I'm sure people will find out eventually on my side and whatnot. Thank you for joining.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure having you all. We will be doing a lot of cool stuff coming up, so keep watching our space. Thank you.